Hi, it's Colin, and welcome to our first true departure from the Dicey Waters campaign, which you can now listen to in its entirety. This episode is the first of a 3-part adventure into an indie system called Spine of Eternity, Everyone Wants to Be a Star, featuring the creator of the game, Eva Terra. Chowder will lead you through this session 0, followed by 2 episodes of play. This is just the first step in our journey to explore new games, styles, partnerships, and more, and we hope you join us along the way. For now, please enjoy Spine of Eternity.
Welcome to Dice Populi, in what is probably going to be our first episode outside of Dicey Waters. So we have something new planned over here. We've got 2 guests joining us, as well as the ever-beloved Patrick Brehm. What we're going to do for the next few episodes is play a game made by Eva called Spine of Eternity, and we'll just walk through like character creation, do a quick one-shot, and hopefully we'll have a good time. Why don't you 2 introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Eva, and I have been working on this game for quite a while. It has been on early access for a bit now. I am trying to work on like the final version, but that's going to take a while, so...
Cool. So my name is Imani. I am a moderator and admin for Historically Black Dice, a digital third space for Black people who love playing TTRPGs. So I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You all know me and Pat. I'm Chowder, or Taeemul, whichever you prefer. I'll be GMing all this, and if there's anything else you want to add Pat.
No, I'm just excited to be here and ready to learn how to play this game.
Eva, tell us about Spine of Eternity.
Spine of Eternity, the game specifically is Everybody Wants to Be a Star, is somewhat of a more traditional tabletop RPG in the way that like it focuses on adventurers, but also it focuses a lot on its own setting. It is built on the Apocalypse engine with a couple particularities that I added about the setting called the Spine of Eternity, which is a tower that has no ending or beginning. This is a place where ruled by the laws of fiction, where perception is reality and fame is power. It is very based on like a lot of settings you see where like deities are powered by, prayers. And then I sort of just take this a step further and ask, like, what stops anyone and anything from being considered a deity? Like, if prayer gives you power, by extension, of fame and such, it's just like, what makes a deity? Why can't anyone just become famous enough and become one?
The example I saw in the book was, Elvis, if he existed in this world and became sufficiently famous enough, he basically becomes a star or a god. Is that understanding correct?
Yeah. I guess I specifically used the term star in that because, I guess I take, divinity in settings very seriously, which is why I just decided like, okay, these are not gods. Nobody calls them gods. They're the stars. And they are just like an important part of how this world is constructed. It is sort of based on the idea that we always have to deal with the weight of the past. Like even if I don't care about who George Washington is, in a very indirect way, I am still just being affected by his influence. The things he did alive and the influence he still has. It just mystified this as little. It's just like, oh yeah, he's up there affecting the world.
What caught my interest was this sort of dreamlike vibe of the world we inhabit, like an infinite tower and like each floor is like its own little setting, right?
Yeah, sort of like that. The idea is that it's just like, it is eternal. So if you ask me like, well, does this exist in the setting? Just like, well, somewhere it exists. And I think that's fun because it sort of lets you get very creative with the setting if you want to be like, okay, this is true and this is true about like the game that I'm running. For the finished version, I'll definitely make like a pre-made, like, little region so people can have a starting point, but also it lets you just get creative with, like, making other regions that other things are fact about them. Almost like in a multiverse way, except that it's not a multiverse, it's just it's 1 billion kilometers upwards. It's not like I'll ever be there in my life.
Part of the problem with, like, multiverse type stories is just, like, it kind of, like, trivializes the conflict going on in the story. But, like, in this, it works a lot better, I feel, where it's all happening at the same time, but it all still kind of matters in a sense.
Yeah, it's just, naturally what matters the most is what's happening immediately around you. And also, I think it lets people get very creative with the things that they want to do. Like I said, I plan on writing, like, a setting so that people have a starting point, like, of, like, a little region. Just like, oh yeah, this is true, and this is true about this region. Here's some examples of places. Here's facts that you can state about your region. And it also just enables me to imagine, like what if I made a game that's, like, on the same setting, but it's slightly different?
So, for this first episode, we'll go through the process of just spitballing off each other as well as a sort of session 0. How does character creation work? What kind of classes are there? What kind of person becomes an adventurer?
So when it comes to character creation, the 2 main things is to pick an arc and a class. An arc sort of covers the more fictional side of your character. It covers, like, specific goals and struggles. And a class covers more mechanics and things you can do and how you do combat and things you're good at. And these are the 2 main choices. Each of them has, like, sub-choices, I guess I would say.
When it comes to arcs, you have choices between Bound, Loose End, Runaway Idol, Lone Wolf, Monster, Wolf, Bastion, Fading Flame, Legacy. I know I'm just going through a bunch of names. Sorry. But Imani, Pat, would you happen to have any ideas for characters you would want to make, whether in general or if you came up with anything for Spine of Eternity?
Yeah, when I was reading through the source material for this, I was really attracted to the legacy arc. I thought that was really interesting, having a heavy legacy on your shoulders, being, like, descendant of someone who was able to reach stardom. Now you have to kind of, like, live up to that. So I really was attracted to that almost right away. Eva, this is, like, a really cool system, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, legacy, it's very the idea of, like, yeah, you have, like, a heavy legacy on your shoulders, but specifically, you want to make your own. You don't want to follow the path that was made for you. You want to be able to forge your own story. So it's sort of just not, like, yeah, dealing with that burden, but also trying to do things your own way. You don't want to just walk the path that was made for you.
Yeah, I love that concept. This is a really cool arc. I'm not super experienced with TTRPGs outside of D&D, so this is really interesting and super different for me, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's a learning experience for us all. I mean, with me, it's like I got all these TTRPGs, but, like, don't really get a chance to play them, so this is actually my first time playing Spine of Eternity too.
Yeah, I think the main idea that came to mind when looking through all of the arcs and kind of understanding the vibe of the world was the runaway idol. Is assuming that everybody kind of understands that the stars are the most powerful beings in this place, then it would naturally be one of my character ideas to try to become one of those idols and stars, because everybody wants to be a star after all.
The runaway idol, I guess, can be a bit of a... Yeah, it is specifically, like, just something based a lot on, like, the things I see about the idol industry and how bad it can be. It's just like, you became an idol because you wanted to. Then you eventually realize, like, oh, wow, this industry is horrible.
Yep.
You leave to earn power so you can fight it properly. It's like, you can't fight it with the fame that you earn from being an idol. So if you want to change the idol industry, you need to earn this fame, this power by yourself. Mm-hmm. There is also one arc that I personally really like, The Heretic, but despite the name, it is specifically more about this idea of you were a faithful person, but there's sort of like the love thy neighbor Christianity and also the very fascist Christianity we see. Sort of this idea of like, you are a love thy neighbor, but you've been branded as heretic by the much more fascists. This is based on like a thing that I see a lot on like, whenever I think I see Christian characters in media, I think most often they are just like, these people who grew up on like these almost Christo-fascist groups, and then throughout their journey they learn like, oh, I shouldn't hate people. But then I wanted to make something like different. I want to make like, okay, even if you were raised in a group like that, you never like accepted that you should just hate people, like just so simply, and they ended up losing their patience with you and just branded you a heretic. Is just one of the arcs, I guess, just my favorites.
There's a lot to work with there. Yeah. No, I can see why. When it comes to classes, what were you guys considering?
Well, I know that I was really interested in the Huntress class. I just really love the idea of like hunting these giant bookworms. I really love this. I love the whole idea of like you're hunting these giant that are unpredictable and like they eat reality, and you gotta stream while you're doing it. Like it really jumped out at me because I just thought it was so funny to think about someone like literally fighting for their life and like streaming while they're doing it. Like it's like TikTok culture or YouTuber culture, like taken to the extreme, which is why I absolutely love it.
Yeah, the game definitely has a lot of inspiration from modern internet culture. Like, it is not a medieval game. I describe it as modern fantasy because, yeah, people have phones, but also there's magic. And the bookworms was one of the earliest ideas that I had because I remember like seeing very like old books that have holes through them because insects ate through them, and I just imagined this way that like in the spine it is basically a book. No, it is called a spine because books have a spine, and so it is imagine this idea like, how would a character feel if they saw one of these insects eating through the pages?
In terms of a class, what I was looking through, I think this one kind of fits the vibe of the Runaway Idol, which is the Mayhem, because the whole write-up on Mayhem says you're a musician who rejects things like producers, marketing, and brand consistency. So the idea there being, I used to be the idol, but then realized I had to change who I was and no longer be within that industry in order to change it. So I would have to kind of embrace the non-industry side of music by rejecting those things and then offering something different, playing songs that come straight from my heart, as the book says. And it's not about nice sounding noise like an idol would be. It's about raw emotion and using that raw emotion to achieve my goals, to quote the book again. That, and it just sounds incredibly badass to be swinging a guitar and a bass.
Yeah.
I love dual wielding different weapons. Mm-hmm. So I was like, how can I do that with a musician? Oh yeah, they do look very similar, but they do have their differences. Yeah, a guitar and a bass.
The asymmetry is something that stood out to me specifically because I love when I design characters to like give them heterochromia or like do things to one side of them that is not present on the other, just to kind of give them a little bit of a nuance that's different from most characters, I guess. Mm-hmm. So like I'll always add body modifications or like have them favor one side or the other just so that it adds a little bit more of a real flavor. Like, it's incredibly unlikely that someone would be perfect on both sides of their body.
Screw the industry. I'm going to become a punk rocker now. That's basically what Runaway Idol to Mayhem is.
Yeah. That's the idea there.
Was there a class you wanted to do, Eva? Eva. Sorry.
I guess the medium is one that I like a lot. Which, as I describe here, a bridge between the heavens and earth. Someone who specializes in communicating with the stars and asking favors and calling for their help. It does remind me a little bit of what I wrote here in one of the moves, which is anything can be a star, thus anything can be a shrine. that doesn't mean that everything is a shrine, but it is just like this notion of divinity that is very vague. I don't think that's the word. It's, if anything can be a star, then by extension, anything could be a shrine. And I like just the medium specializing in this idea of like knowing how to communicate with the stars, knowing how to communicate with them, asking favors, and all the different ways to appease them, and like different rituals and different objects that they like.
So far, so good. And now for the crunchier part, figuring out things like abilities and stats. And this game is done in the Powered by the Apocalypse system. The most prominent part is how the game uses 2d6s to determine checks and stuff. When it comes to like stats, there are 6 stats: body, mind, heart, nerve, spirit, and inventory. Body is what it sounds like: fighting, punching, running, jumping, that kind of stuff. Mind is, well, your knowledge, your book knowledge. How much do you know? How much can you deduce? That kind of stuff. Heart, from what I understand, is your social skills, right? Like your ability to like sway other people, your ability to like lie, your ability to act, that kind of stuff, right?
Yes, you're right in seeing heart as the social skills.
Yeah, and then next up is nerve. Nerve is... Sorry, that one's escaping me a little, but I believe nerve is like things like your ability to handle stress, your ability to stay sane, your ability or being courageous. Is that right?
Yes. Most direct comparison would be the cool or cold stat in other games.
Right.
Not panicking, doing things well, like doing things that require precision, but above everything, just avoiding panicking and doing things with a cool head.
And the last one is inventory. This is your...
Did we talk about spirit?
Oh, spirit, right. I'm sorry. Second to last is spirit. This is your ability to commune with the stars, commune with the gods.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how, like, you do, like, magic and spells and stuff.
Yeah, it is very much, just communing with the stars, doing magic, specifically, like, more ritualistic kind of magic.
What exactly is ritualistic kind of magic, to clarify?
Oh, yeah. So in the game, I describe magic as like the will made manifest. And so magic is something that basically everyone does a little bit. And so magic is often very related to emotions and stuff. But then spirit covers like the more, I guess, like the more traditional magic, with candles and resources and chanting.
And the last one is inventory. Inventory is your resources. Do you have money? Do you have the right tool for the job in your bag? But also your ability to haggle with someone or...
Yeah, inventory is sort of a measurement of like how good you are with resources. It's not just about how much money you have, but like how good you are at dealing with money. How like good at like, earning money and talking the money language. Oh yeah, doing business and stuff.
Right. So it's also like part of your inventory where it's like, all right, we have enough supplies for this long, and I know how to make it last, right?
Yeah. Because inventory in this case is not a liquid stat, like it's not constantly changing. It is like a static stat like the others. So it very much measures just, your ability to deal with resources. Because I always just found like interesting when characters have like a very like focus on material things, and I wanted to do that in a more abstract way over just like, okay, you have this amount of money, you have these things.
And in character creation, how do arcs and classes affect the actual mechanical part of the character? Like classes have like certain kinds of stats, right?
Arcs mostly come up and play. The only thing that affects character creation is that they have questions to ask other teammates or like the other player characters, and it's used to establish your bond stat with them, which I guess that is another stat. So the main thing arcs do is They have questions to ask the other player characters to like establish a starting relation with them, and which also defines your bond stat, which is another stat in the game, which is like a stat that you have with each of the other teammates, the other player characters. The class is where proverbial meat is. You have an option for stats. You pick one of 3 options that will like determine like your different stats and strengths and weaknesses. And then most often, pick a move. Every character has it is separated from the moves. It's like their signature action. How do you describe it again? Yeah, it's your class specialty. It is also something you always have. You don't need to pick it. And then you do, I think most classes will say for you to pick one move among 6 or 7. You may or may not pick a flaw. There are flaws that make you not necessarily bad at things, but they introduce complications. They have no benefits. I don't want to make this into a min-maxing thing. I think you should just pick a flaw if you think it will be fun to play around it. You also have your approaches to conflict, which are different ways of fighting, but approaches to conflict and your class specialty, their main deal is giving you a list of things you can declare as the game goes. Okay, I have this action, I have this attack, I have this weapon, and you're limited in the amount of things you can declare, but they reset at each new episode, which is, an episode is sort of a mission. The game has a sort of a mission structure.
With those, I think we can start making the characters. Like, we have the general ideas for the characters, and Imani, Pat would choose which stats and...
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the middle path of -1 to body, +1 to mind, -1 to heart, +2 to nerve, +0 to spirit, +1 to inventory, based on the explanation of the stats. Now I do have a question about spoilers. But I can wait until Pat explains what he's going to do with this character.
Yeah, no, what's the question?
Maybe it's just me. I don't really understand spoilers. So if you could maybe explain that a little bit.
Yes. A spoiler is the huntresses, the weapons that they use to hunt the bookworms. Like you said, bookworms can come in so many different shapes and do so many different things that hunting them demands a very versatile weapon, and the spoiler is what they use. It's sort of a trick, a words play that I do there. Like, there's the bookworm that eats books, and there's the bookworm that's like the person that really likes reading, and I was like, okay, the person that really likes reading hates spoilers, so that's what I'm gonna name the weapon that's used to hunt the insects that eat books.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so every character, every class is specialty. We're involved in taking a scar, which is an ongoing point of stress to their stress sheet, which is a whole other thing. I guess this is one of the more crunchy systems that I made. But the idea is basically like, okay, I do a stunt. I roll number 4. Number 4 has a scar marked to it and 2 points of charge. So whenever you roll 2d6, there are 2 chances of you rolling the number 4. If you roll number 4, you lose a charge. If you lose all your charges, you will need to take another scar to recharge it back. And then in charging it, it enables you to use one of its different formations, which lets it do stress to any of the 6 stats. There's another thing in the game is that there is no one stat for combat. I wanted to make a situation where everybody can do combat well. So when you inflict damage to someone, you will inflict damage of the kind of one of the 6 stats: body, mind, heart, nerve, inventory, or spirit.
So just reading the source material, so you declare 2 forms of your spoiler. So I can just pick any of these things?
Yes. You don't need to declare them. You don't need to pick them in character creation. You may declare them as you need. and then they're reset at the start of the new episode.
Lovely. But a flaw is something that I should pick during character creation, right?
Yes, a flaw is picked during character creation.
I absolutely think I should have one, especially because I like the Daredevil flaw. Being like an adrenaline junkie, I think that's so fun.
Pat, so, we got stats, we got moves.
Yeah, so looking at the stat distributions for the Mayhem, and kind of thinking in line with the Runaway Idol, I think what makes the most sense to me would be the body +1, mostly because I think, like, as an idol, usually they have to be pretty physically fit in order to be chosen to be an idol in the first place. Mind 0, I don't think they're necessarily super smart, but I don't think they're super naive either. I think they're just pretty neutral on the book smarts. Heart +2, that's just across the board on all of the Mayhem classes that you have to have a lot of heart. Nerve -1, I think, is kind of the move here. Spirit +1 and inventory -1. Can you, just remind me, nerve is like the ability to stay cool under pressure and act?
Yeah, that is what nerve is.
Yeah, so the flavor I guess I'm going with there is that when I was in the industry, I had people on my team, I had producers to kind of help me get over those nerves, and now that I'm on my own, I don't have that support system anymore. So, or I guess my character, not me, but the character doesn't have that support system anymore, and that's going to make it so that they have to try a little bit harder to get over those nerves. And then I think the spirit +1, based on the songs are coming straight from the heart, I'm going to be trying to wear my heart on my sleeve and achieve my goals that way. I think that's something that would be looked on very favorably by the stars. And then again, inventory -1, not really being savvy to the business side of things in the music industry because I was just the idol. I didn't know all the behind the scenes stuff, but that's something that I need to learn now. That's why I went with that kind of distribution.
That's a very interesting way of interpreting it. I like it. I'll keep that in mind.
And then the flaws that are available in the Mayhem class, it's kind of difficult to pick one because I can see both of them fitting in with this character. But
you may pick both if you want.
Oh, yeah, true.
But yeah, there's no limit. It is a thing. It's just like, oh, can I pick every flaw in the game? It's just like, well, you can, but I don't think you'll remember to play around all of them.
Yeah, probably not.
I choose to play as a garbage fire of a person.
Honestly, that fits in with a lot of musicians, so.
That is true.
I think the flaw that speaks to me most is tomorrow will be the most beautiful day in their life. Seeing people who refuse to follow their dreams pisses me off, and I must roll to make a stand with mind to avoid insisting that they should follow their dreams even in a forceful way. That may put me in trouble.
Yeah, that one. I don't know how many to understand the reference, but that is actually it's actually a Fight Club reference. It's a scene that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's a lot of references in these, back to like the spoilers from The Huntress. One of them's called Rude Buster, and I'm like, hey, wait, that's from Deltarune.
Yeah, I was like, what? Like, well, how could I call a weapon that makes people mad? And I remember, hey, there's this song called Rude Buster.
Which is just like kind of perfect. It's a great name. All right, Eva, what are you thinking for your character?
Yeah, so I am going with the Heretic Medium. I pick the stat distribution of body -1. I suppose my character was never very physically active. And yeah, with mind +1, yeah, just mostly focused on reading the books. I never really been very physically active. Heart +1, also kind of sociable. Focusing on studying the books, helping other people, not very physically active. Nerve 0, so I guess neutral when it comes to staying cool. Spirit +2, all of them have Spirit +2, and inventory -1. I guess there's more like the the humble, just religious person idea. So just not many worldly possessions. The move that I picked is Wing Messenger. Of course you have wings. How else would you reach the stars if you didn't? You may grow wings that enable you to fly. You may lose them as a fallout. There's something that you do that the stars find unbecoming. Something you refuse to change. Yeah, I think that my character is just kinda stubborn. Like, they're the kind of person that, like, if they don't agree with a rule, they'll like insist, like, why should I do this? Oh, you have to. Like, no, I don't think I have to. Yeah, since I already going with the more, like, humble, religious person with not many worldly possessions, yeah, I guess just, they really don't have many fancy outfits. Or, like, rather, yeah, they're just very, very simple things. Pretty dirty, too. And a lot of stars do find that just unbecoming. Like, if you come talk to me, you dress your best, and they don't care to do that.
All right. Last thing I want to ask about character creation is, what are your names?
See, this is why I made a bunch of generated tables at the end.
Indeed.
Whenever I write characters for this game, I make them, for their names, I often just come up with, like, words. Because in my idea, there's this idea that, like, people are stories. And so, you may name your character whatever you want. This is just a more me thing. Because I pretty much struggle coming up with more normal names. So, let me just roll 2d100. My character's name is Panacea Supine. Panacea is an okay name.
Panacea. That's a fun name.
Panacea.
Well, I'm sure if that's how you're supposed to pronounce it, but...
You know, you can pronounce it however, but I've always said panacea. I don't actually know how it's pronounced now that I think about it.
Panacea, yeah. A remedy for all ills.
I've only ever seen it in text.
Yeah, that is very much the kind of word, you see a lot in video games and stuff. So, you're seeing it a lot, but you don't really know how to pronounce it.
I think I've read that word a lot, and I've just never heard it said aloud.
It's kind of like the word kernel. It's like,
oh god,
you look at it and it's like, it looks nothing like it. Colonel, exactly.
This is like a subject where I have to tell myself, don't get started, because the word colonel makes me so mad because of the French, and it's a whole thing.
This is a bit of a funny name, but reverberant somnambulist would be hilarious.
Reverberant somnambulist.
Yeah, just like a really boisterous, loud, echoing person who talks in their sleep.
The generator table is, like I did describe, it's like, if you don't know what to do next, you can always use them for reference, but...
I think in going with, like, the idol theme, I would choose a name that's very mysterious, like X. X would be my name as an idol. But then I would change it after I ran away so that, like, people wouldn't know who I am necessarily.
Yeah.
So I think I would change it from X to something like...
Y.
Jax. No.
Jax?
Yeah, Jax.
Yeah, it's sort of like, because of the nature of the runaway idol lore, it just sort of demands multiple names, but I feel like it's the kind of thing where, if you don't want to bother with it, you really don't have to.
No, I think it would make sense, because, like, the X identity was something that was given to me. It's not who I am. And then after I run away, I change it to be something that fits who I am more cleanly, I guess.
So for me, I think because the Huntress has to, like, stream her hunts and all that stuff, like, she has to be constantly, like, online. I think she would probably go by a screen name instead of, like, a real name. Like, I don't think she would go by, like, something that sounds like a real name. Like, yeah, I think it would be maybe... I like the table. So I want to say, like, Violet Twilight. Violet is not on the table, but I like the idea of, like, doing a color and a thing. So, like, her screen name would be, like, Violet Twilight, but I guess she would just go by Violet or V.
Or Violet.
Violet! Oh my god, yes! Wait, no, that's the screen name. That's the screen name. Violet? Yes. And then she goes by Vi.
Violet.
Yeah.
as I said before, but yeah, the game has a lot of themes about streaming and internet culture. I guess it's just something that I guess I find interesting. It's just something we deal with every day. I think it's just interesting to imagine these things in a world with magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like I would definitely watch a streamer who has magic. Like, that's definitely something I would do.
We're hitting the point where we can make a cut-off point in this episode, so I'll leave on a short description of my idea for what we're going to do for the one-shot. So, we have our hero, Violet, Panacea, and Jax. 3 adventurers looking to become stars of their own. They wander into a town inhabited by goat people. Goat people, they're looking a little glum, sad. And by a little, I mean a lot. Seems they've been cheated out of their own belongings. The culprit? A man who calls himself the unbeatable game master. What lies for our heroes? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. I mean Dice Populi.
R.I.P. R.I.P. No.
Yo, rest in peace, Toriyama.
Dice Populi is a Common Geeking Program production, produced and edited by Colin Ketchen. This episode features Taeemul Chowdhury as the host and game master, Eva Terra as the game's creator, Patrick Brehm, and Imani Bryant. Find all their links and Spine of Eternity's early access in this episode's show notes. Thank you to our many patrons that keep the show running. In addition to our new adventure, we have updates to our merchandise with rotating seasonal shirts, prints, and mugs, a new season in our Discord with polls, games, and rewards for top participants, streaming series, Patreon tiers, and more. All of this can be found at dicepopuli.com. We'll see you in 2 weeks for more Spine of Eternity.
Or figuring out things like abilities and stats. In the case of this game is... Man, I really wish I was told about the construction earlier. I'm sorry.